long-term personalization algorithm that I've built and use is using reinforcement learning. So over time, the robot, whether it's an education goal for children or whether it's a emotional engagement for elders, we monitor the states of the user. And what that means is we're monitoring their engagement or learning progression. And then that signals the robot to take certain action. And when the robot takes an action, then we look at the child's engagement, whether it has changed positively or if it progressed the child's learning. Then we feed back that as a reward to the robot's action. So if the robot did something right, then we will see these positive effects, whether the child re-engages or whether the child demonstrates a new knowledge, then that becomes a reward for the robot to say, oh, this action was good, right? So that's how the robot learns over time what actions it should provide to this particular user. And along that line, we also input robust actions where we can actually trigger the user to change their state or provide more information about their state. For example, during the interaction of storytelling, which I did just last year, Tega would ask questions during the storytelling. Sorry about that. So in literature, that's called dialogic reading activity. So it's something that you can easily think about a parent and a child reading together, and the parent asks questions along the way. Oh, what do you think will happen next? Or what do you think this boy felt when he lost his pet frog? Things like that. So that actually triggers the child to think and infer about what's going on in the story or reflect on the internal states of the characters in the story. So all those activities are really good things that you can trigger to a child when they are learning to read or learning to tell better stories. So during the interaction, Tega will often ask questions to the child, first to assess for the child's engagement, because the child is answering the question that signals a deep engagement, but also to understand whether the child is following the story or how much information the child is getting from the story, for example. So we're actually really interested in the robot asking questions back. So it's not just a user asking a question to the robot and the robot answers back, but it's actually a robot asking a question and the child actually taking turns with the robot in that sense. The reinforcement learning algorithm that I like to use in terms of long-term interaction and what enables the robot's actions over time, specific to personalized to this user, I think it has so much potential, because now then we can learn a model from one interaction and transfer to the next interaction, right? So then how do we represent that shared experience? Then how do we share that experience to the next model? So that's my core interest at the moment. At the same time, I am very interested in the core technologies that enables those kind of interactions. For example, understanding the user state is one thing, but also the robot expressing its states is the other. Because it's not like other technology where things are black box. The robot has to express its mental states, right? So when a robot is saying something, it needs to incorporate motions into what it's saying, right? So that's part of my text to motion work, where it was we had a huge corpus collected of a robot telling a story in a very expressive way, and then we trained a model on top of that, and we learned the model based on analyzing the sentiment of a sentence, but aligning that with the correct motion the robot can output. So by detecting the timing of the core word that is influencing the sentiment, that's driving the sentiment of a sentence, we're embedding the right robot motion that corresponds to that sentiment of a sentence. So now the robot is not just saying a sentence plainly, but it's also incorporating its motions to say it in a very expressive way. So a platform like Tega and Jibo are really good for that.